So I'll load up the page here. Change very slightly from my previous demo. I'm now using some icons here. I'll just quickly show you that actually in my browser debugger. If you're not familiar with browser debugging, I recommend, a lot of them have got built-in or there's add-ons for your browser, but I recommend using them. Very useful just even to look at existing sites and see how they're built. Here, for example, I'm using the envelope icon. I'm using an input group add-on class here, and if I expand that, you can see here I've got the Font Awesome envelope icon, and then I've got my Uniface email field maps to my email field on my form entity in my boot login form, and I've got the standard form control class here. There, the placeholder's email gives me that nice background default thing for password, for example. Now, if I enter a password, there we go. We see my tabs page. I can click between them, and I've got some of the other functionality I had before, dismissible alerts, but I've added some additional functionality. So, for example, here's an overlay. I'm passing parameters. So if I click on this, there you go. You can see that my username is David, is passed as a parameter, and we could just do Uniface retrieve command, for example, read all the data, show it in my form. That's just the concept. My standard close button I've supplied as a parameter to my component, and my title I've supplied as a parameter, and it's just loading my form in a container in here. I've supplied a callback so that when I click the close, it'll call that method, and then I'm using my alert container to display the what was selected. In the same way, I could have a lookup here. I'll select a country, Netherlands, and I'm populating the field via a callback. Oh, I could have a dialogue, yes or no, for example. Now let's have a quick look at how that code is implemented. By the way, there is some navigation in here, but not much happening in it at the moment. You can obviously change that to load something else into the container. Right, so code. If we look at my project, I've migrated the code to Uniface 10 here. So we'll see I've got a project created, which is organizing it all. My boot main page is my main page, so I'll just open that. You'll see if I look at the layout, not much in there. The header fields that load all of the resources I need, my CSS and my JavaScript and so on, including my own custom stuff. A couple of DSP containers, modal and container that loads the main page. The modal is for that overlay. We can actually see, if we look at the structure here, that we have a DSP container for the main container, and the modal one has an initial value of boot modal, so we're loading the boot modal field, form into it. The container, we don't load initial value, because basically when we run the executable, here I can click the operation exec, go straight to it. We're checking in the Tomcat session attributes, have we got a logon? If we haven't, we want to display the boot logon form. I've created a function now to actually get the DSP, and that's just for me to automate these things a little bit more and have some common logic. Otherwise, I'm showing my application that's just loading my navigation in there. So let's quickly show you some of that code. LP get DSP. I can click to it and go straight to that. Include proc. And you can see here I just supply a component name, an instance name, and some options, and it returns a handle. So if we don't supply an instance name, it uses the component name. I explicitly new instance it. And if we've supplied some options, then I actually call a create operation and supply those options. And as long as that create operation exists, we'll be sending the parameters. You can actually do more sophisticated things here. So this is taken from a simplified version of something we've got in the web framework project, and there we're converting to JSON, which is a complex type that we can pass easily to JavaScript and use as an object within JavaScript. So you can elaborate on this if you want. going back to the main page, the show application here, all it's doing, clearing the message and setting to nav DSP. We're using the pre-compiler here to say what that is, but it's boot nav. So if I actually show you that quickly. So let's look at boot nav. If we look at the HTML here, all we've got is a navigation list here with list items in there for the navigation at the top, and then for the tabs, well, we've got drop downs and so on. That actually loads in again a container, an alert and so on, so we're reusing the same things. That's actually loading in its page boot tabs. So boot tabs has got the actual tab page that we load from the navigation. So if we look at that, the layout here, simply a list, an unordered list with tabs classes on them, and list items for each item in the list. And all we're doing, using the IDs here, is relating them to divs that contain the content. So here we've got tab 01. If we look down here, we'll see tab 01 here. We've got a Uniface div here that has a field that's a DSP container, and we're just loading our page into there. Then that switching between tabs is done automatically. I don't need to write any code. So if I wanted to add a new page, all I do is add it to the list up here, add a div down here to contain it. Job done. That will load in boot page, for example. Just to show you the code here, I'm loading them straight away in the execute trigger into the tabs, boot page, sample modal. So we're just loading a couple of fields. We could do lazy loading, i.e. when they click on a tab, we trap that and we load it then via some JavaScript code. That's just a performance optimization you might want if you don't think they're commonly used. So looking at a page, here again, just a standard Uniface page with some HTML. We're using div class form groups for each line. We're using the 12-column grid system, 2-column labels, 10-column fields. If I wanted to add that into my form, and using Uniface 10, quite easy, I can use a snippet, and I've created here my own little snippet library with a bootstrap form group. So I can actually insert that into layout here. I get a default form group. I don't have to remember what the layout looks like. What I can now do quite easily is copy that binding information and replace it. And I'll do the same for my input fields and labels. And there I've built my HTML, compile it, job done. So that gives you a nice easy way of doing this in Uniface 10. There are other ways you can do it. You can modify $instance layout programmatically. I won't go into the details of that at the moment. Okay, so the last kind of things to show you quickly is the modal functionality. We've got a modal sample. They've got some buttons on it. And all we're doing when they click a button, in this case we're getting a sample select form, and we're web activating a JavaScript function, JSShow, and we're passing the titles, the callback functions that I've declared in this form and so on. You can actually see those here. So confirm callback, for example, we get a result back, and depending on that, we're activating another container, a contained component to show the message. You can see there we're doing another JavaScript function. This one is doing it in Uniface, so I've actually proc script code, so I'm scoping the operation, and I'm activating in Uniface code the show method. That is fairly straightforward. If we look at the boot and modal thing, if I go to show method, which has got some buttons that we're painting. We're creating occurrences of those buttons for all of the things that have been supplied to us for a list. We're loading the instance that was sent to us into the container, and we're telling it to display, because the default property we've set here is to be none, i.e. it's not displayed. We're setting some callbacks in some fields. I probably shouldn't use hidden fields. I should use something like session storage. And then we're activating a JavaScript function to do the show functionality. Now, rather than actually write all the JavaScript here, I've actually extrapolated all the dependencies on a framework like Bootstrap into a separate JavaScript file. So I've got a UI.js that we load at the top, and it's just got things like my dismiss handler, my formatting alerts so that they get the right classes, alert danger for an error, info, etc. And there is my code for showing and hiding. Literally find the element with an ID of modal and use the modal operation that's supplied by our framework, tell it to show, or to hide it, to hide. That's it. So the way that I've done it is I'm using a namespace here. So my main.js defines app, and we've just got some things in here that I can change, what are my pages. And by adding all my user interface functionality into a separate file, I can organize this really easily. And if I wanted to change the implementation, I don't have to change all my Uniface code. So it's just a good practice. Otherwise, when you build lots of code, it can get a bit hard to manage. So by using namespaces, you've kind of made this a lot easier for yourself in the long term. That pretty much wraps it up for today's demo. Have we got any questions before we finish?
No questions. So it's all been very quiet. So thanks, Dave. Thanks to everybody that's attending. Might have a question coming, don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Next session will be in 1 month's time, where we'll talk about deployment of responsive apps where we use the web application server architecture. This presentation, the recording, will be up on YouTube in the next week or so, and the the slide deck will be put up onto SlideShare as quickly as we can put up. I think we did just see a question coming.
Yeah, so you just wanted to see the resources slide? Yeah, oh, sorry. Let's just go back to here. Bear with me. There you go. So the source code is available on GitHub. If you look for the WebSart project, it's all there. If you want to install that, there is an installer project that can be used to actually do that. If you have problems, let us know. Any discussions on this, feel free to post on Uniface Info. And the recordings for this will be on YouTube. It's not shown here, but the presentation will be up on SlideShare.
Yep. Okay, thanks, Dave. We'll wrap up. Thanks, everybody, for attending and listening, and we will see you all in 1 month's time. Thank you.